Lawrence from Goodnight Games, and today I'm going to give you a basic introduction to tables. Now, what we're going to do is, the best way to do this is we're going to make an RPG NPC that talks based on a table. Like so. See, when I click him, he talks. So what are tables? Well, let's open a new document and find out. So File, New. We've got our document. And if you notice, I have a whole tab devoted to tables. So if I click that, you'll see I have my default purchase table, which is for in-app purchases. You don't have to really worry about that. Let's go ahead and make a new one. So I'll click on that. So the way to think of a table is a gathering of attributes, just a big cluster of data that's easily organized. So instead of, say, us going to scene and, attributes, you have like 1 million attributes in there, we can keep it all in one table and keep it organized. So you can do things, if you were making an RPG, player stats can all be in one thing, enemy stats, and what we're doing right now with talk. So we can call this NPC talk. And I'll hit OK. Remember, always name everything. So if I double click, you'll see this looks a lot like Excel because it's kind of the same thing. We have the name, amount of rows, and amount of columns, and you can put this as much as you want. So columns are horizontally, rows are vertically. And if you'll notice, I have text, 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 text. So what that signifies is what type of data is going to go inside your row. So we can click on that, and you'll see we have text, integer, real, boolean, and angle. So we have all of the attribute functions in here minus index. But that's okay. So we just pick what we want for the row. So with this, it's all going to be text, so we can just put that right here. We'll do 1 row and 3 columns. And now the nice thing is, if you see the gray spaces here, I can edit those. So if I say like NPC 1, right? It'll label my row, and then here, let's say we have him have different moods, which will be good. So we can go happy, meh, and sad. And it's always good to label these because if you come back to the table, you want to know where everything is, and these things can get very big and complicated, so always label. Now we'll put in the text. You don't need to use quotes like you would if you were an expression editor and display text, so I can just put whatever I want. So yay, meh, and aw. And of course, the ... dots. So we've got that. We've got our data. And before we jump out of this, I'll show you something real quick. You see we have import CSV and export CSV. Now, what is a CSV? Well, that's a file format that Excel could do, OpenOffice, or Google Sheets. All of that you can save as a CSV. It's basically, if you make a spreadsheet out of a different program, you can literally type all your data in there and just bring it straight in, and it'll import just fine, which is very helpful if you know what you want to bring in ahead of time. Like say if we had a bunch of characters with a bunch of text, it's easier to put that into Excel and then click on Import CSV, and then you just find it and open it, and it'll literally just swap everything and keep the cells intact and perfect. Same thing with Export CSV. If I click on that, it'll export exactly what I have, so I can open it in Excel or Google Sheets or another program, and it makes it really easy to work with. So we've got this, we've got our talk table. What we're going to do is we're going to make an actor, and we're going to have him basically spout a word balloon. Now this is going to be really basic, and then with the file I'm going to include, if you look, I'll include ways to make this perfect and modular, so you can literally just take this, use it as much as you want, and make NPCs that just drag straight in without any modification. So we'll do this very basically. We're going to go to the Actor tab. I'll hit the plus. Make a new actor. We'll call him Talk NPC. Now, go to Scenes. First, let's make Talk NPC a little smaller because he's 100 by 100. And then we'll go and drop him in. Just like that. The next thing we want to make is his word bubble. So I'll hit the plus again, and we'll just do all this ahead of time. I'll say word bubble. And then we'll go inside of the word bubble. Now, let's make it see-through, so I'm clicking on color, going to opacity, turning it down. And we're using text. So what we want to do is, we want to do something that can handle text, which is display text. And you'll see, with display text, we have the expression editor. So I'll hit the E, and in the expression editor, you'll see we have insert function. Now, when calling from a table, if you want a specific value, you see we have table cell value. We have a number of functions associated with it. Table cell value, the amount of columns, the number of columns, the sum of the columns added together. You can merge values, you can count the rows, row number, and you can search in the table. So there's a lot of functionality in this. For now, we'll keep it basic. So when you have table cell value, I'll click on it. It'll give you everything you need. So I need a table, a row, and a column. So I'll click on that, and then you will find your table in Game Attributes. You see, right there. Double click it, and it's in. Now, we know it's only one row because it doesn't go anywhere. So row 1. And let's just say column 1 for now. So 1, 1. We'll hit the checkbox. Now let's look at what we did. So if I go home, initial scene, and drag the word bubble in, you see, we'll hit play, since if you noticed, if I use preview, it'll show that there's text there, but it won't actually draw from the table. So something to be aware of. I'll hit preview, and you'll see that's our first line, 1, 1, yay. We've called directly from the table. Perfect. So what we can do is I can double click on this word bubble, and let's go back into display text, and let's change the second attribute because we want it to go through the columns. So I'll insert function random, and we'll say 1 to 3. Now keep in mind, with tables, there is no column 0, there is no row 0. So you have to start from 1. It's pretty much the opposite of everything. So if we do that, and I hit play, every time I hit this, you see, we'll get a different response. Now, to make it spawn, I can go ahead and make a rule in there. First, we have to kill it, obviously. So we'll make a rule in the word bubble time, so self-time is greater than 1. And we'll just say destroy. So that'll kill it after it's on screen a second. So let me go home, and let's get this out of the scene. So just delete it out of the scene, so we just have Talk NPC. Now we'll go into Talk NPC. And what I'm going to do is every time he's pressed, so every time actor touch is pressed, we'll spawn the actor word bubble. So I'll just drag spawn actor into there, word bubble, and we'll put it up by, let's say, 20. So now, if I see it, press him, that's not far enough, so we'll go back, we'll do 45, and press him, there we go. So it'll come up, like so. And you see it's drawing from the table with all of the data. Now if I hit back, what if some quest, so let's just label this. So what if some quest decided you've completed it and it changes something? So you want to change part of the table. Now there's 2 ways of doing this. So for the sake of argument, let's go back to the table. We'll do NPC talk. And now I can do this two ways. I can either make another row, and I say maybe NPC quest completed, and then you can come in here and change the responses. So you can change the responses on both rows, so I have two rows. Then what you can do is, if I have, say, a variable, I could then change in word bubble, say, I want this to come from row 2. So I just change that, and you see, it'll come straight through. So it's all just dependent on what you call. So now here's the other thing we're going to show about tables. So what happens if you want to change something about the table? So if you want to change the row or something else of that nature. So let's say, I don't like 1, 1. So what we'll do is, actually we already modified it so it's on the second row, so we'll modify 2, 1. So let's say we're on that and you've done something else and you want to change it. All you have to do is go into, say, the talk NPC, or wherever really, and you'll see I have something called change table value right here. And what that'll do, this is just like change attribute. It'll fire and change whatever you want in the table. So if I go to the E, and I go set my table NPC talk, and then you can set what you want. So let's do 2 and 1. So row 2, column 1, and then you can change the value. I can say just gibberish, it doesn't matter. And it'll change. And since it's loose, it'll just fire automatically. So you can envelop this in a rule, you can envelop this in whatever you want. And the nice thing about this is, if you see the plus, I can change multiple things at the same time. So I can change everything about this table. So using that, I can change any table attribute on the fly. So this has been part 1 of an introduction to tables. And in part 2, we'll talk about, well, how can I use this to be a little more complex. So we'll continue our RPG theme, and feel free to use the template I've provided to make a talking villager, and it'll be just drag and droppable, edit it however you want. So this is Lawrence from Goodnight Games, signing out.